Let's take a look at zooming on TI-83 calculator. And let's take a look at our first example here. So I'm going to go to y equals, press clear, and then I got press my x key, the x squared minus 5x plus 6. Of course, this is assuming you know how to graph. So if you haven't watched that video, you ought to watch that video first. Now, if I just did a normal press my graph button, this is what it looks like. Maybe I want to understand more about this. Like I can tell by looking at it, it goes down a little bit below my x-axis and goes back up. Well, I can choose zoom, and there's a zoom in option. So I can either down arrow to that and press enter on it, or press the number 2. Now it doesn't feel like it's done anything. It's waiting for us to move our cursor over to where we want to zoom in at. So if I move my cursor to the right and press my right arrow key, and if I did up, you can see the little flashing plus there, flashing cursor. So I put it down right there. Now if I press enter right there, it'll zoom in based upon where I had my cursor. Now it's still in zoom in mode, so each time I press enter, it'll zoom in by another factor. And of course, if you zoom in too much, then you don't see anything. Set it back to your standard viewing window. You do zoom, and then you choose 6 for Z standard, and that sets it back. Now that's zooming in. Now if I do zoom, and the first one is Z box, and I think this is probably one of the nicest zooming features. If I go ahead and press enter on Z box, doesn't feel like it's done anything. It's waiting for me to put my cursor in the upper left hand corner where I want to zoom at. So I'm doing my up arrow and I do my left arrow. And it doesn't matter where you put it. Put it somewhere like right around there if you're practicing this at home. And then I press enter one time. It changes from a flashing plus to a flashing square. Now if I do my down arrow and right arrow, you see it's drawing a box. Now this is just going to zoom in on just what I draw a box around. So you want to move this to your lower right hand corner of your box, and once you get there, then you press enter, and it'll zoom in just on that part. I like this feature the best because it can zoom exactly into what you want to look at. Again, to set it back to your standard viewing window, you do zoom, and then you choose 6 for Z standard. Now that's our first example. Let's say we got this one, x squared minus 400. Well, if I press y equals and clear, do my x and then my x squared minus 400. Now if I press graph, I don't see anything. I could do zoom and choose zoom out. So I choose 3. And I'll just go ahead and my flashing cursor is right in the middle there. I press enter, and it'll zoom out by a factor. Then I can see more of what's going on right here. And then at that point, I could change to a different zoom. If I press zoom enter one more time, it'd zoom out by another factor. But if I choose zoom and choose Z box, then I could move this to where I'd have it round. I put it right there, press enter one time, do a down arrow, right arrow, and you can sit there and hold down on the right arrow key. You don't have to keep pushing it over and over. And now I've just put a box around the x-intercepts. So I press enter on that, then give me a view just based upon that. So you can use a combination of these to get a better idea of what's going on. Now if I, again, do zoom and then choose Z standard to set it back. There's other zoom capabilities here. Those are the ones that are most beneficial for college algebra. There's Z decimal, Z square. Z square is a square setting. Trig is for trig. Integer, zoom stat, zoom fit. Zoom fit is meant to get your mins and maxes on there, I believe. Anyway, I'll do a second mode exit out of that. Another one that you can play with if you want is the window feature. If I choose window, this is where you can manually set this up. So like if I wanted to go from -20 and to positive 20. Then I could put that in there. If I wanted the X scale to go by 2's, I can then change that to 2's. And now if I press graph, you see this. And my tick marks, this is negative 20, this is positive 20, and it's going by 2's. So it's negative 20, negative 18, negative 16, so forth. There's a danger with this. If I'm in a window, if I screw this up, like I put a larger number in X min, then if I go to graph, it gives me a window range error. Well, again, to fix anything dealing with zoom, whether it's a zoom or the window feature, you do zoom and 6, and that'll set it back to your standard viewing window. And that's zooming on a TI-83 calculator.